What's going on, Matt? I appreciate you coming on.
You're very welcome. Good to be on with you guys.
Good. So you're in California right now?
No, I'm in Oregon, Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, welcome to the Pound for Pound Cage Talk podcast. And today we got also a guest. We got Joe Hurst. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor in North Carolina.
Hey Joe, how are
Hey,
you?
hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
A
So
lot of respect to you, man.
Well, thank you, sir. Where you at in North Carolina? What part?
I'm near Blowing Rock, near the mountains, Grandfather
Okay.
Mountain up. Yeah.
It's probably beautiful out there. I'm out in the mountains, but it's I used to live near the Cascades here, but now I'm out in the coastal mountains in Oregon. So I live out on the coast, and then I'm at my gym during the week here in Portland.
cool.
We shared another mutual mountain. Uh, uh, I think you won uh the nationals in Greco in Greece. I used to live in Greece in Volos.
Oh, really? I
Didn't
I
you win?
won a world silver medal when I was wrestling in Patras, Greece. Yes.
Yeah, man. I was looking more detail of you. Man, is it? Uh, I'm sorry, but to ask a question, it was like ninth grade. Is that when you started wrestling?
Yeah, I started as a freshman in high school. Yeah.
And man, you won the junior nationals, junior college nationals, and then you went on to be like 36-0 one year in
Yeah, I
Nebraska.
wasn't good enough to go straight into like a D1 program out of high school. I hadn't quite figured it out, so I decided to go to a school just in my hometown, little college up the street. So
But what do you credit that to? If starting in the ninth grade, some of these guys start at 5 years old.
yeah, no, I understand they start at 5, but a lot of those guys by the time they're getting to the college age, they're pretty much done. They're pretty much tired of the sport, beat up, burned out. I think a lot of that's the way that athletes are trained. Everything has to be a periodization training plan. I mean, that coaching jujitsu, if you're getting athletes ready for tournaments. I was very blessed. I got some really good coaches. My high school coaching, where I was at high school, we didn't have like really quality coaches until like my second year when I convinced our coach to bring in another assistant coach, and I ended up getting a really good assistant coach at my high school. But I also had a club, and my club we produced a lot. It was a normal thing to put athletes on world teams and Olympic teams at my club. It was like a
Right?
normal thing. So there was a few guys out of that club that I trained in that were already on world teams, already had made Olympic teams by the time I was involved with wrestling. And so I got immersed in a really competitive culture. And it wasn't really a developmental culture either. It was figure it out or quit. It was it was kind of that you just gotta fight it out until eventually one day you're starting to figure out, hey, I got a takedown today, or maybe I turned this guy. But those were far and few between for a long number of years, especially when you're starting late.
Well,
So
and I truly find it amazing to start in the ninth grade and went on 36-0 in Nebraska one year. That's a phenomenal leap.
Well, thank you. I mean, here at my gym, I've been running this gym now for 23 years, and I do a lot of long-term athlete development models where I do not want my young athletes to specialize. I want them to be very well-rounded, understand striking, understand grappling, and not like Greco-Roman or folk style, or just grappling, just the grappling arts. I mean, judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, like learn it all. And then a lot of them, because there's such a great architecture for the sport of wrestling. They have it in the high schools, they have it in the junior highs. There's a lot of competition opportunities. A lot of them end up gravitating more towards wrestling. I do like the way that the jujitsu runs things better as far as development of athletes. They have age groups, and then they have belt levels. Wrestling, they just try to throw you all in there. That's like survive. and it's not as much about development. And fortunately, I was able to survive in that kind of an environment. Just maybe I was tougher than some of these kids. But I was equestrian athlete. I rode ponies. So that was my sport. And then honestly, the truth be told, my family told me that we were actually poor. And I didn't know we were poor when I was a kid. Because I had a pony. I was like, how can we be poor? Right? I have a pony.
Yeah.
Oh, I got everything I need. And and as I was progressing in the competitive ladder, I was the best equestrian athlete in our state at my age group. And they told me one day, they were like, give it up. We can't afford for you to compete in equestrian sports. So you got to find a new sport. So that was kind of how I found my way into wrestling.
And Matt, I wanted to ask you this. So in 2000, you entered the Summer Olympics, right?
Yes, I was the 76 kilo representative for the United States in Sydney Games in 2000.
And I'm going to follow up with this. Do you have any favorite experiences or anything like that when you were in the Olympics? What sticks out the most, I guess?
Well, I honestly just having my family there, my kids, my wife there. They were pretty young. They were there to support me, so that was probably the memory that sticks out the most. Honestly, there was like one moment where I was staying in the village. I was preparing for competition. I was training. My son and my daughter were both there in town, and after competition, my daughter was like, "You're going with us tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm done competing." She's like, "Yes!" Like, she was just fired up to have dad not stay in the Olympic Village and come stay with her. So that was probably my best memory, to be honest. Is just seeing my little girl like all excited that dad was going to come stay with them that night.
For sure, man. And shortly after that, you start training with legends like Randy Couture and Dan Henderson, right?
Yeah, I mean, I trained. I mean, dude, I could go on and on. Besides, on a regular basis, I trained with Randy daily, and I had some other really quality guys. I mean, like Benji Raddick, Dennis Hallman, Josh Barnett, Maurice Smith. I mean, those guys were like Jeff Monson. Those guys were local. 2 hours away from us up in Olympia, just north of us in Washington State. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that wrestling, finding a club where I had a culture of really successful athletes and being a part of that. And then, I saw Randy was fighting, and in '97, I actually took 3 fights. They're on my record. I took 3 fights. But I had goals in wrestling, and I knew for certain that if I was going to stick with the fighting and start to really study the martial arts, in a broader sense, that it was really going to probably distract me from reaching my goals of winning a medal in the Olympic Games. And so I put that away. I had 3 fights, and I was like, yeah, this is great, but I need to focus on my wrestling. And as soon as I got done with the Olympics, Jeff Blatnick, who used to be the announcer, he was like the Joe Rogan of today. Like, I don't know, some of you guys are old enough to remember that, but Jeff Blatnick was the guy. He was the commentator, the color commentator guy, and he was also the color commentator at the Olympic Games. And I said, hey, do you got a contact? You got somebody? He's like, I'll make a call. I'll get you in there. 2 months after the games, I was fighting in my first UFC. I was just very blessed. And then a few months later, I fought in the first sanctioned UFC event, which was in Atlantic City, in Trump Taj Mahal. And that was the first sanctioned fight ever. And it went from SEG to Zuffa. Ownership changed, and my contract followed with Zuffa, and the rest is kind of history from there.
And you were close to getting the belt in the UFC, weren't you? You fought Bustamante.
Yeah, I was supposed to get title fights over and over. You can find recordings of Dana saying, "Oh yeah, if Matt wins this next fight, or if he wins this one, we're giving him a title shot." But they were protecting guys. They had guys that they wanted to promote. They had guys they really liked. They like athletes that they can control. It's like if we can control you, we got something over you. We have leverage. You're going to be our guy. I'm a little hard to control. I'm kind of a savage. Like a wild.
You
Well,
know,
that's you go ahead, Andrew.
Chael Sonnen said you were the greatest 185er at one point. That's what Chael said in one of his videos.
Well, I mean, I feel like I was there. I mean, I just never got the opportunity to fight for the UFC title. In that time, UFC fired me twice, tried to hire me a third time. I didn't take that opportunity, and that was to go on the reality TV show, and I didn't really want to be a part of that. That wasn't, that it just didn't fit my lifestyle. I'm an adult man with a wife and kids, and they want me to go live in a house with a bunch of other savages, and
Right.
it just wasn't my thing, and they weren't offering me enough money to do it. I mean, maybe if it was, the pay was right, I may have sacrificed to do that. But I like I said, I'd been fired twice without cause. They're a major organization, $1 billion company. I mean, you can't win, you can't beat them unless you got millions and billions of dollars to fight them in courts. And and as your fight, you see it nowadays. You see the guys that do go to court with them, their career is over by the time this thing ever makes it to the courtroom. It's like I just was like, hey, whatever, I'll fight somewhere else. And fortunately, at that time, there was Strike Force, there was Bodog, there was Cage Rages, there was, I mean, I had my own show, a sport fight. I even fought in that. I mean, there was a lot of places that were competitive at that time, and UFC was able to dominate the market and drive everybody out. They've got a great brand, but the sport isn't. I mean, I hear people use it as a verb. The UFC, like.
Right. No.
Um,
Talking about legal stuff, I read up on you where you had to take someone to court and they started calling you the lawyer. And you got to wrestle the gentleman again, and then you beat him, I think 9-0. And then
9-0, 10-0 is they call it a technical fall. And I probably could have got to 10 in that match, but I took it to 9, and I just was like, I'm good. I'm gonna hold it.
you're gonna hold it out. And that's how you got the lawyer, right?
The law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays in Greco-Roman wrestling, the tech fall is only 8 points. So
That's a good way to punish him back, was to keep it right at 9 and let him ride that out.
I mean, it wasn't about the athlete. It was never about the athlete. He was out there doing what he wanted to do, chasing his dreams. It was just the fact that the match was misjudged, and then they denied me my rights. They did not allow me to appeal it. They did, and then when I finally took them to court, they started taking members off the committee. Then ultimately I went to arbitration, which is supposed to be final and binding. I get a ruling, says, hey, listen, I don't know anything about the sport, but I know about the law. And the law says you guys as an organization, the USOC, the Olympic Committee, and USA Wrestling did nothing right. They didn't follow. They wrote the procedures, and they didn't follow their own procedures. So the judge just basically said, I know the law, and you guys didn't follow the law. Let's just re-wrestle the match. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then they actually tried to re-arbitrate it again. So it was a little silly. It was a little stressful, even when I was in Sydney, just right after I walked in the opening ceremonies. I got a call from my attorney saying, hey, listen, they're going to try to arbitrate this case in the International Court of Arbitration for Sport. And then ultimately that old cantankerous judge in the Ninth Circuit Court in Chicago, they woke him up in Chicago time, like 3 a.m. in the morning, and to let him know they were going to arbitrate the case again and overturn his ruling, a ruling that the United States Supreme Court had already upheld. And so the guy's like, I'm pretty vindicated because the United States Supreme Court has already agreed that I did everything right. My ruling's on point. He told these executives that, hey, that's fine. You guys won. I don't have any jurisdiction outside the United States, but if you ever plan on coming back, I'll have air marshals waiting. So they ended up ultimately dropping that case. And that was only the day before I was competing on the mat. So a lot of stress, a lot of, uncertainty going into those games. So I wasn't really focused on the competition so much. It kind of distracted me, like all the added bullshit I had to deal with. Allowed me to just free my mind and compete up to the best of my abilities.
Which is well, you did
It
well.
turned out to be a silver medal that day.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of I know you did some politics in 2008. Do you have any interest in ever getting back into politics as of late?
man, it's so dirty. It's so dirty. I mean, it's like all the stuff that we're seeing that, they're flipping votes. Like this stuff was happening in 2008, and they're gaslighting you, telling you, oh, that's not true. Like, well, they busted an organization called Acorn because they caught them doing it. A smaller news reporting agency that was called Project Veritas, it used to be run by James O'Keefe, broke that story originally, and it showed that they were flipping votes and they were changing, taking voter registrations and registering voters that were already dead, or weren't voting. So my district flipped, and from the time I ran till the end of the election, my district had flipped, and was like, wow, that's really interesting. I don't know how that could have possibly happened. Well, unless there was fraud. And so ultimately there was, but it was a close election regardless. My idea, the only reason I even ran was because my strength coach and I were talking, and he said that morning, he said, well, I need you to go home and run for our House seat because we don't have a representative that's filed yet. So I filed. I probably got done about 9:30 in the morning with a lift. I went home, got online. I had till 5 o'clock that day to file. And like the second I hit send on the internet there, I'm getting called from reporters and GOP leaders, and because I ran as a Republican, which I'm a diehard libertarian. More of a conservative libertarian, but I'm very libertarian in my leanings. That's the only time in my life I've even registered as a Republican voter. But yeah, they wanted to know why I was running. They had a candidate. I was like, great, I don't want to run. Let me vet your candidate. And for a conservative candidate, our values did not align, and so I couldn't get behind their conservative pick there. And I was like, yeah, this individual's never even had a job outside of government. And I'm very pro-life as well. That's a big issue for me. So that was and as a conservative GOP candidate, I thought that was pretty standard operating practice to at least be on the right side of the life issue. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. I mean, I have 2 children, I think children matter and kids matter. And, that's why I coach martial arts, because I want to build up children, and I want to build up young men, strong young men that bless women and children, that look after, protect, and, don't go after, kids and children. Like that's our job as men. I mean, you hear about all this toxic masculinity bullshit, and there's good men that need to look after women and children. We need to bless these kids, and we need to bless these women. But the toxic side of that is just evil men. And if you have evil men, you need good men that are violent and that know how to defend women and children. And
Absolutely.
And that's just the nature of it. Not all of us are toxic.
Yeah. Do you know Cameron Hames by any chance? I know you live in Oregon.
I know who he is. I think he's a Eugene guy, down in Eugene. He's a couple hours south of me. I don't know him. Big elk hunter, I guess. I'm elk hunting here next week.
Okay.
I live out in the coastal mountain range. I mean, last weekend I was canning tuna. I was hunting deer. I'm I'm living like a really awesome life, homesteading, got a garden, canned up a bunch of
Awesome.
vegetables. I'm just it's a really cool lifestyle now because I loved every phase of my life where I was raising my kids. They were young and then they were in school and they were busy doing athletics. Now they're married and they're out of my house. And my wife and I live in the woods and in the cabin. And I'm 20 minutes from the ocean where I was clam digging the weekend before, dropping crab pots, slaying salmon out there in the river. So I mean, it's just like stocking up my house, building a root cellar here coming up. So I mean, just lots of good, cool stuff because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't either.
know where this world is going, and I want to make sure that we're good, we're cool.
Now you make me feel normal because I I have like 3 to 4 months of dry food supplies, and I keep everything. And so like some of the other people I work with, they're like they think I'm a little extreme on that, but yeah, I mean I believe in being prepared for whatever may come. You know.
Yeah. My big diesel generator will even heat up my sauna too. So I'll be living
Yeah,
good life.
Well, every
but
week
Bill,
there's a new incident. You know what I mean? There's a new something the government's trying to get involved in. So you never know, right?
Yeah, no, I'm a total non-interventionist. Just I don't want our countries attacking anybody in war. I don't want us taking our tax dollars and spending it on somebody else's wars either. But that and that's probably one of the reasons why I ultimately was like, yeah, maybe I can get in there and make a difference. But the corruption's pretty bad. It's very difficult to get in and make a difference right now, especially in a state like Oregon. It's a very liberal state.
So it seems like it. But I mean, there's a lot of states
Seems
like
like
that.
it. Okay,
You know,
we're the only state in the entire country that legalized every drug known to man. The entire state. And guess what? There was a voter referendum. The voters chose this.
crazy, right?
So 2 weeks ago, I was on a town hall panel with all these people that are getting funding from, what do they call it? Prevention, harm reduction, harm prevention, where they give you meth pipes and they give you injection needles, they give you Narcan. And it's like this is harm reduction. This is like in the world I live in, this is like encouraging this. It's like you're actually encouraging these type of behaviors. And Oregon voters think that we're gonna fix all these drug addicts and we need to house them and all that. And I'm like, what about our next generation that we're not spending any money on youth prevention of these kind of activities and I understand this because I live in the gym. I live where my gym is. That neighborhood is like we are one of the poorest communities in the entire state where my gym is. So and these kids need martial arts, they need discipline, they need structure, they need consequences, they need rules to live by. They need to have that structure and that sense of self-worth and knowing that they can defend themselves and protect themselves. So I mean, everyone's like looks at me and goes, "You teach the kindergartners?" I'm like, "Yeah, those are the kids. We gotta get them early. We gotta fix them, and get them to fall in love with the sport of martial arts, so they have something that keeps them from joining gangs, keeps them from selling drugs on the streets. Because if you just left them to their own vices, they're gonna go down that path. And so you got to guide them, you got to train them, you got to mentor them." Train these kids up, and teach them how to fight and teach them how to be disciplined young athletes.
For sure. And
I think it's important too, because like kids teach them early, because kids don't these days and times, in the way like with the social distance and all that, kids don't even know how to go to school or talk to each other anymore. So the fact that you get in a gym every day and you got their undivided attention for say 30 minutes to an hour is big these days to kind of preach and teach these kids these days, especially because even I'm 26, but I've seen it. Even people in my age or a little bit younger, it's like we're so detached from what's really going on in the world because of the cell phone, because of the social distancing and everything that the world's kind of came into today with social media.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting kids on drugs. Oh, this kid's got attention deficit disorder.
Exactly.
He's got ADHD. Get him on drugs. It's like, get him in the gym, get him outdoors. Send this kid out in the woods and give him a gun. Let him go chase down a deer, like give him a fishing rod, put him in the gym. I mean, there's so many other options before you're like, oh yeah, first thing, let's fund big pharma. Let's pump up big pharma. Let's mess with their heads. I wonder why we have a drug culture in our country right now, because we've told parents, like, get your kid on some drugs.
Yeah.
They don't sit still in a classroom in an unnatural environment. These kids, they shouldn't even be in a classroom till they're like 13, like, hey, maybe you can sit down by now. Like, but like I said, I grew up riding ponies and fishing and playing outdoors, and yeah, I had to go to a school, and I'm sure I never sat down in a classroom. I can't imagine sitting down and they want these kids like in these rows and in these orders, and and then I get them here at the gym, and they're like, wow, this is crazy. I'm like, well, yeah, but we gotta learn how to walk before we can start, like, punching and kicking here. We're gonna learn how to, like, move our feet. And so, I mean, it's difficult. It's very difficult. And like you said, right now, that's whole social distancing, that was just a complete psyop. I mean, who bought, anybody on this call here buy into that bullshit? Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take the vax. I'm gonna wear it. Like, it was like,
No.
dude, I know you're psyoping us. It was honestly, it was a demonic attack. And as a culture and as a society, we were listening to demons.
Yeah.
Like,
well, some people were.
I think the biggest issue I had is that they were pushing, like, trying to push health and working out at home, but then they were locking down gyms. And it's like, that was my biggest thing to me, is like, you want to preach health, and like you said, stab yourself with a pen, and then it's like, you're not even letting gyms being open where people can go out and get healthy. Like, you're giving us medicine, but like you said, there's pumping big pharma at that point.
Well, I mean, you just look at what's happened from that. It's like, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got drug. All these things have exponentially increased. I don't have stats. I just know for a fact, and anecdotally watching and seeing what's going on. There's more drug use because people are trying to self-medicate their depression. There's more people on these, what are they, SSRIs? Like, there's more people on these drugs than ever before, because everybody's depressed because they couldn't train. They couldn't connect with other human beings and be social with their regular community. And it's like, yeah, none of this makes sense. I actually wrote an article. It's on my blog, coachmattlindland.com, about the difference between solitude and isolation. It was like, go isolate yourself. It's like, that was like a demonic spirit. And I was like, you know what? I'm choosing solitude with my wife and time with the Lord. I'm just going to sit here and pray and be in nature and spend time in solitude, because a lot of you guys are crazy and I don't even want to be around you. So I'm choosing solitude, but I'm not isolating. I'm gonna spend time with my wife, and I'm gonna spend time in the Word, and in time in prayer, and just like relax, because I recognize that this was a psyop from the second I heard it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree with you.
Andrew, what were you about to say?
What were we talking about earlier? I was gonna bring up bodog earlier. Is that fine? I was gonna change subjects a little bit.
That's okay. We can talk fights.
Okay. So what I was gonna say, Chael brought you up today, and he was mentioning it. It had to do. I'm not gonna get into Jorge Masvidal and Chael beef right now. I don't know if you've seen anything yet, but
I actually have a YouTube. I think that the whole social media thing, going back to what we're talking about, is fucking making people crazy too.
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Chael's crazy, but I'm just saying.
Well, he might be, but I love the kid. But I mean, I literally had to take all that stuff off my phone. The only one I have on my phone is YouTube. I have on the phone. I took the Twitters off and the Instagram. But
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just unhealthy.
So we can't reach you on Instagram no more.
I have it on my iPad, but I only look at it on the weekends. I think I told you, I was like, email me. Remember,
You did, yeah, a while ago. Yeah, you
I
said
checked
email
it on
me.
the weekends, but I usually just check the messages.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but I did see there was some beef. I mean,
But
who doesn't?
Chael
Who the
brought
heck
you.
doesn't beef,
Yeah,
man?
Chael brought you up though. It was about he was talking about Masvidal in the early days in Bodog, and you and Chael were at Bodog event. And what was he talking about? You didn't use the arena, but you guys went to the back room to fight. You would know better than me. He says you guys almost fought in like a closet instead of using the actual Coliseum arena.
I don't know what story he's talking about.
I'll email you the
I'll tell you
YouTube
what,
link.
I was just over at Westland High School yesterday because there was the Levi Cooper. He was a former Division I All-American at Arizona State. Did the WWE Pro Development League, and he just moved back to Portland, and he's working with heavyweight wrestlers. And I took one of my athletes over there. So every Tuesday, Levi's gonna run a heavyweight practice for like these athletes in the community. It's like, and that's not really our community. We had to travel to get to Westland, which is a little bit down the road. It's probably 30 minutes south of where I'm at. But I took CJ over there, and it just made me remember. I was looking at the wall because that was my first job coaching ever. Was 30 years ago, Westland High School. Chael was a sophomore in high school, and that was the first coaching job I'd ever actually had. And I worked for a man named Dave Sanville, and what an awesome coach. I mean, I learned so many lessons. I mean, for guys that are listening, like learning from like a mentor that's like got 20, 30 years experience on you, like, because nowadays we have so much access to information, but nobody has any wisdom. It's like, here I can look that up on my iPhone. But nobody has wisdom. And I was just thinking about this because I took one of my students out there yesterday who's a heavyweight. And another guy that started wrestling as a freshman, but I have had him in my gym for 10 years. He's been doing jujitsu. He's been doing martial arts. He's been doing wrestling wrestling. He knows how to move his body, but we never put him into competitive sport till he was a freshman. Ended up in the state finals as a freshman, his first year as a wrestler. Yeah. But like I said, it was a long-term athlete development model. Here's how you move your body. Here's how you throw a punch. Here's how you, take a guy to the mat. Here's how you get to the back. Just movements, like long-term athlete development, not, hey, we're gonna grind you out in the sport. And that's what I think, going back to that first question, when you're like, wow, that's crazy that you started in 9th grade. I wasn't burned out. I was still excited about learning. And to this day, I'm still like a student. As much as I am a coach, I still am like a total student of the sport. It's like I can learn things so much like better now because I know how to learn better. I know how to study the sport. And that, I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier in the Olympics, and then the year later I went to Patras, Greece. I moved up a weight class. I never even wanted to wrestle at 85 kilos, even though I was weighing about 83 kilos. I was like, man, I don't want to go up to that next weight because I've got everybody scouted, and so after the Olympics, I was like, I'm done. I'm either retiring or I'm going to move up a weight class. And I was actually going to retire because I started fighting. And then the World Championships were going to be in the United States. They were going to be in New York City in September in 2001. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna come back one more year. I'm gonna wrestle in New York City. Then our country got blown up, so that's how I ended up in Patras, Greece, is they postponed the World Championships. I was leaving in 2 days for the World Championships in New York City when that happened. We were going to compete September 16th.
And stopped it all, didn't it?
Yeah, so I had to like put the brakes on the training camp and then restart a whole nother training camp. That's another story. But yeah, just being over at Westland yesterday just like brought back a lot of cool memories of me learning from my first coaching job, me learning from the head coach, of just how to deal. And it's not always about like, how do I make this athlete better? It's how do I create a better human being? How do I create a better
Yeah.
person? And that's kind of what Dave taught me. And I love that about him because I pull up the school and I catch these two kids that are on our team smoking butts out behind the building before wrestling practice. I'm like, what the hell? Like, Dave, we're kicking these dudes off. Like, and then from that moment on, I like started to learn how to actually what coaching is. It's about encouraging, and to encourage is like literally to pour courage into somebody, to like fill them with courage and strength, and it's like, how do we grow these young men? How do we create good humans for our society and our culture? And the way we do it around here is we get them on the mats and we get them training, we get them working hard, we get them learning martial arts and building confidence. And so they are encouraged. And then they go out and they get to compete and they see, if they're really as tough as they think they are, they got to get back in the gym and work harder. I mean, so it's fun. I'm very blessed to do what I get to do.
That's
And
awesome.
that's such a beautiful gateway to work with people and guide them and help them. And I believe in it. I was talking with these guys on the podcast earlier, and I believe that you should never leave a human being worse than you found them. So you should always try to help people, to help them grow, And what a better venue than jiu-jitsu or martial arts or boxing or wrestling, and it gives them something to focus on other than the bad,
Well, yeah, and especially for young men, like they need to know how to fight. They need to know how to protect themselves. They need to know how to protect their family, their woman. It's like, but this whole bullshit of like men are toxic. No, there are toxic men, but usually not the ones that are training martial arts. These are the guys
Yeah.
that are like, hey, listen, I can already kick your ass. I don't need to start shit.
But
I got a few more minutes before I gotta go teach another class. What time is it? It's all right. We got another 12 minutes, guys.
sounds good. I was good. Now, can I ask
Fire
this?
away.
Any good Evan Tanner stories? Anything that sticks out to you?
Man, bless his heart. Evan, I mean, what a tough guy he was. He was, he's a good competitor. He was a good teammate. He just had a big drinking problem, so I mean, honestly, off the mats, I didn't spend a lot of time with Evan socializing because I had young kids. I was raising a family. I have a wife that, what I think 33 years now. I've been, faithfully married to her. And so, I mean, I just didn't live that same lifestyle. So me and Evan didn't really hang out off the mats. We were good training partners. I appreciate him being here and, I mean, there's a guy right there that, he ended up winning a world title in the UFC.
Yeah.
World champ in the UFC, but he got the shot, another guy out of my gym that got the shot, Nathan Corey,
That's
so
right,
those
yeah.
were all during that era where I'm training these guys up. I'm working with them. I'm helping coach them. And I'm not getting a shot. I'm fighting over in Russia against heavyweights, but yeah, I think, life just is what it is. And, I mean, we can all understand that just because you're not in the UFC doesn't mean you're not the best fighter. It's just, you're the best
Absolutely.
fighter in that organization. And these organizations are really much more fractured right now. You look at the business and you're like, why would, UFC ever bring over a guy from Bellator or something like that? Why would they build up somebody else's brand? And they didn't bring over what was that kid Askren? Remember Askren, where they wouldn't bring him in, and then they waited till he got a little older, and then they were like, okay, come on in now.
Yeah.
And he got his ass whooped, and they're
Yeah.
like, see, Bellator sucks. They
Yeah.
made their point. But maybe if they would have brought Askren in 3-4 years earlier when he was kind of at the peak of his game, maybe he would have done a lot better. I don't know.
He was dominant in one championship, wasn't he? I think one and Bellator, wasn't he? He was in both of them.
He was good. I don't know what level of fighter he had, but he was pretty competitive. I mean,
He had the hip injury though. I know that messed. He came into the UFC with the hip injury, and then Masvidal, after the Robbie Lawler fight, then Masvidal got him with the flying knee. But I mean, you never know. I mean, Ben Askren
Waller
might have got a
me
hold of
too,
him.
man. At the end of my career,
He was what, like 27 or 28 when you fought Robbie Lawler too, right?
yeah,
he was young. He was young.
He was in his prime, and I was on the
Yeah.
backside, and I mean, it was like towards the end of my career, it was like, yeah, I still want to do this, and your mind's saying, yeah, I can do this, and your reactions, your body, your timing, they're just not what they were when you were in your peak. I was in my late 40s, so
I think we see guys like that now. I mean, that's me and Andrew talk about Tony Ferguson on the daily because we love him, and we just hate to see what's going on with him right now. So I hope he can get it back with Patty. But like you said, I just don't think. And even Jorge, when he fought Gilbert, he's like, I don't have, like, quarterback don't have that arm no more. I don't have that punch no more. And he kind of realized it and got out. But it's kind of tough to see at times. People you grow up kind of idolizing and looking up to.
there's a window. There's definitely a window, and you got to maximize everything in that window. Like you've got to focus. You got to be, your lifestyle has to be like right during that time. It's like if you're in your prime of your career, man, you shouldn't be like partying. You should be like training, sleeping, just looking at how can I get better every day, instead of wasting those moments away. Because sports is a lot different than other careers where, like, later in your career, if you're a banker, like, the longer you're in banking, the more money you can make. Like, in fighting, it doesn't work that way. Just doesn't work that way.
It's funny because I'm in banking. I actually work for a bank, so that was
good. Well, you can keep growing.
That was
back to what I was talking about, wisdom.
Right.
It's just like learning those lessons, and like, because you're going to get your ass kicked once in a while, even in banking. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again.
Sure.
Well, I transitioned from exercise science chiropractic to banking. So like you said, that was kind of the ass kicking part. But like you said, like, there's a slow growth till you retire, basically, and fighting's just not that. So
yeah.
Well, one day
before we get going,
we'll be coming to him for money.
What's that?
One day, you guys our age be coming to him for money. Then,
yeah. Well, any more questions before I got to go teach another class?
Joe, do you have anything you want to end anything? Any questions?
Yeah. How was your training regimen today? Because I'm a little bit older than you probably, and I'm trying to figure out what is your training regimen? What do you?
I'm trying to figure it out too. I mean, I walk a lot. I sauna a lot. I do bands. I tore this bicep. See that bicep? I tore that on Sunday, and I don't even know how I did it.
Oh wow!
I literally don't know how I did it. I was driving. I was like, man, something's going on. And I got home. I looked at it. And I was like, oh yeah, I tore that. So like my training now is a lot different. It's like it's like recovery. Like full time. Like I'm doing like bands, body weight stuff. Especially even in like the last 3-4 years, I haven't picked up like too many barbells. I love to do deadlifts and stay strong. I want to stay strong, but it's like every time I lift some heavy iron, it's like that hurts. I tore that. I strained this. So I just do like a lot of band work, those elastic bands, pommel with those, stretch with those. I stay active teaching. I teach 3 or 4 classes a day. Sometimes they're kids and they're not as active, but you're like mentally engaged. But I would say, like, walking for me, like, people ask, like, what's the best thing? Like, get outside, out of the indoors, get outside and walk, and the what I try to go with, I go 4 days a week, because I know if I get 4 in, I've got the majority. There's only 7 days in a week. If I can get 4 walks in, 45 minutes a time, that's kind of what I like to do. But I mean, I paddle a lot. I'm in my kayak. I've been doing a lot more flat water because I live on the Columbia River out by the coast. This year I did the first year I ever got on the North Fork of the Payette, which was some high level. They just had the the Extreme World Whitewater Championships there last year. So it's not like it's one of the easiest rivers, but you know, I still pretty active. Like I'll run big class 5 sections of whitewater, e-bike a lot. You know, I'm like, I just try to keep my body moving as much as I can without hurting myself. That's what it is. Cause like I said, like tearing my bicep on Sunday, just randomly, not even knowing how I did it, you know, like a little frustrating.
And it's so true to these young guys in their prime. It is coming, guys, where you'll just have a knee injury and you don't even know where it came from. And
yeah, no,
maybe
I did have a knee injury and one time, and I got the imaging, and the guy goes, "Oh, when did you lose your MCL?" And I'm like, "Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's not there." Like, no, it's not there. All right, yeah, don't have that. You know, I think there's a lot of missing ligaments and joints that are just, I haven't imaged them all, so I don't know. I mean, they were taking like this size of, like as big as my thumbnail, pieces of chunks out of my elbows for, you know, I'd be like, my elbow would lock up and I couldn't straighten my arm, and I'd be like, I go to the doctor, he's like, "Oh, we can just go in there and cut those out, and you don't need all those bone chips in your
You don't need them.
You don't need them. Just take things out." So, but yeah, I mean, keep moving, just
Keep moving.
don't stop moving. And walking's pretty easy, and it's something that you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose that, you know.
Yes,
And
sir.
I walk pretty. I'm really blessed, man. I live out in the mountains at the coast, and they're not super tall mountains. They're like, I think our highest peak's about 3,500. But they're freaking steep, man. They're just these steep canyons. It's on the Columbia River Gorge, you know. I mean, it's just these beautiful steep canyons, you know, and people are like, "Why would you hunt there? Like it's too, the timber's too thick, the mountains are too steep." And I'm like, "Cause I live there." You
It's
know?
available, yeah.
Yeah, because I live there. I don't have to go like camping. I can just stay at my cabin, and you know, 10 minutes I'm where I want to be, you know. Like the elk are like half the time they're in my yard, you know. So
Cool. That's
it's
cool.
Happy hunting to you. I do
yeah,
want to say
thank you guys.
it truly was an honor to talk to you. You
Thank you guys for having me on, and thank you for inviting me. And yeah,
God
Chael's
bless you.
got a lot of great stories. I don't know which one that was. I apologize.
No,
But,
you're good. Yeah, I can. If you
a lot
want
of
me
good
to,
times together.
I'll send you the email. I'll email it to you. How's that?
That sounds great.
All right, man. Sounds
So I
good.
won't check that Instagram until maybe this weekend.
All right, man.
Sounds good, man.
I
Have a good
appreciate it,
class.
Matt.
Blessings, guys. You bet.
All right.
Take care,
Thanks,
buddy.
man. Thanks.